Hello and welcome to Talking Dogs on a Monday. I'm joined as always by the exiled dub Tommy Lyons and the Cheshire Cat Sarah Kinsella. Lots to look back on from the last few days. Of course, the action in the UK featuring many of Ireland's best, while we also have to look back at the likes of the Cork and Cuchulainn, the Tipperary Cup. We have, of course, the final of the National Produce Stakes down at Clonmel. Some unbelievable racing at Cork, and we will join one or two other tracks while we're at it. So we better get straight into it because there's an awful lot to talk about. Sarah, busy weekend. Obviously, you were doing your travels. You were at Limerick and Clonmel. You got to see some fantastic racing, but most notably, the only classic winner on the weekend was Unanimous Panther winning the Produce Stakes. We'll get back to him a little bit later on, but just a good weekend of sport.
It was excellent, and I was lucky enough to see two track records being broken, one in Limerick and one in Clonmel, which we'll touch on throughout the morning. But yeah, a fantastic weekend of racing, loads to talk about today.
Yeah, Tommy, it's this time of year you sort of struggle to keep on top of it all, don't you? Like even just before we went on air here, I was trying to open up all the various results and find where the best performances was. But sure, I could have been going all day. You sometimes just have to put a line in it and say, no, this is all we can talk about today. We're going to start at Shelbourne Park with the Corn Cuchulainn, but I suppose the weekend ended up in great fashion with Clonmel.
Yeah, I did. Look, at the good thing about the time of year and it is manically busy, but you've kind of got that. The National Project Stakes I always consider a kind of an intermediary kind of a classic. It's kind of stepping stone between the pups and the next generation. What it feels like to me, that's kind of the Derby dogs coming through. You've got the unraced below in Cork, which is producing brilliant dogs the last number of years. And then you've got the English Derby, which is coming to a climax as well as having the current Cullen. So it's a good mix of competitions at the moment, even though it is manically busy.
Yeah, let's get started. Let's get into the Corn Cuchulainn action. It won't come as a surprise to anybody that Tuono Charlie continued his unbeaten ways over six bends, landing the spoils in the opening semi-final of the Corn Cuchulainn. This fellow is now 10 from 10 over six bends, Sarah. He's an absolute galloping machine. Sharon Hunt and Paul Dyer are living the dream with this fella. 1-3 the other evening. He popped out, was always in charge. Didn't quite go as fast as the previous week, 41-22. It's still a magnificent run, but to the eye, not as impressive as the previous time. A huge run in second by Ballyhooly TJ, who came from lengths and lengths back to be beaten only 3 lengths. But yeah, I think Tuono Charlie, it's safe to say he'll be odds on again in the final.
Yeah, he will. It was just more of the same, really, wasn't it? He won by 10 lengths the first round. I remember taking the Sharon Hunt ran across the track and they wanted their picture taken beside the clock because it was such 41:01 was such a brilliant time. And when we were all watching it, we were thinking, Jesus, the track record's in trouble here. Now it was a good few lengths off the track record, but as you say, to the eye, the first round it was special. But look, still an excellent performance, 41:22. I mean, that's a savage time. 3 lengths, as you say, Ballyhooly TJ made up loads of ground and won and ran a really good race. But yeah, Charlie's just different class, isn't he? He's just
Yeah.
different.
Tommy, she's saying there 41:01. Do you know what did 42:01 grass track record at Shelbourne Park?
Probably yours, was it?
Get connected. Second fastest
Get
run over
connected.
ever on grass. 42 seconds was the fastest time ever done on grass. That was by Azure, I believe, which is trained by Joe Graham. And Get Connected, trained by Seamus Graham, 42:01 at Shelbourne Park. It
Mm.
seems like a lifetime ago. Here we are talking about Greyhounds doing a full second faster. Obviously, that's the sand, that's the conditions. And obviously, very, very special stare. We're talking about the 41:01 last week was the second fastest time ever done for the 750-yard trip. The track record of Reds or Artford is something of an outlier. That was such a stunning run on the night. He absolutely took off. That was the night he was at his very, very best. You look back at his wonderful career that included a ledger success, but that 40-86 run was just simply out of this world. But this Tono Charlie, Tommy, 10 from 10 over the six bends. He's also pretty talented over four bends. One of those dogs where you just go, God, I'd love to own him.
Yeah, his run the other night was even better than it looked. He had Hanover Phantom giving him a kind of a bit of some degree of a challenge early. And it's kind of what I talked about before he came to Dublin. That's what we wanted to see, a real good kind of middle distance dog, giving him a bit of a run early, see what he'd do. Now Hanover Phantom wouldn't be an electric early pacer, but is a very, very classy dog. And sometimes those dogs adapt to the traps of the 750. They mightn't quite get home or whatever else, but they adapt to the traps and run well over the trip. I thought it was a nice test of on with Charlie. And actually, funny enough, I had been talking to Tom O'Neill in Curraheen the week before last, and we were just chatting about Ballyhooly TJ. or maybe it was a fortnight before that, the night he won in Curraheen Park, and he was just saying he's kind of frustrating because there's immense ability there. Thomas had a lot of good dogs. He had a Derby runner-up, I'm sure. It was a Dream Walker, maybe.
Yeah, he was second
You know,
to
he knows.
Razzle George, isn't it?
Yeah, he know like Tom knows the time of day, and he had said to me that Ballyhooly TJ is immensely fast, but like for many reasons, it often doesn't happen for a greyhound, and it can be so frustrating. For I'd say the country is littered with those type of dogs in the top kennels where they're frustrated that they can't get the best out of them week in, week out. So the fact that he ran 200 Charlie to 3 lengths, there might be some people saying, maybe 200 Charlie, it's all catching up on him and all that, and maybe he might be worth opposing next week. I take it the opposite way. Ballyhooly TJ is a seriously fast dog. And yes, he got two 200 Charlie, I think maybe at the bend after the line and that, but I still think it's a huge performance. 41.22 on the back of a 42.01 or 41.01. He's just a joy, an absolute joy to watch. The type of dog I love to watch anyway. That class comes out every single night.
Yeah, and there just doesn't seem to be a fault in his makeup,
No.
Sarah. Like this dog does it to the corner. He's powerful down the back straight, and he stays every inch of it. Yes, he was coming back a little bit to Ballyhooly TJ the other night, but as Tommy said, Ballyhooly TJ is clearly a very talented greyhound. He's doing 41, 43. You know, there's many as a year that'd be good enough to win the final, and here we are, like, you know, trying not crabbing to Charlie, but they're just saying that it's not quite as good as the previous week. He's still doing 41.22, which is probably in the top 10 fastest times ever done for the trip. Son of good news. Ballyhooly TJ, as a matter of interest, is out of Catsbell. Do you know what Catsbell, the most famous progeny, was to this point?
No. Tell us.
The ever popular, ever likable Beach Avenue.
Oh, yeah.
Paul Hennessy, Catsbell, the dam of Beach Avenue. Hanover Phantom was back in third spot. I just think Tono Charlie broke his heart, Sarah. You know, he's trying his best. He just couldn't get there. And you could just see sort of near between the last two bends, he went, oh, to hell with this. You know, I just can't go anymore. And he literally just, he drained himself by that fifth bend, should I say. And he just had no more to give. And Ballyhooly TJ, you know, I funny enough, did a 3-win race, 4-5-2. And I just did it straight because it was paying so small at the time. And I'm looking down the back straight thinking, like, TJ's going to have to get motoring here. He beats Hanover Phantom by 4.5 lengths.
Yeah, easy peasy. Like, and look, I know there's probably an age difference between them, like, but this is great for Hanover Phantom to reach his second Cork and Cuchulainn final. Like, that's not easy to do. Absolutely over 6 bends. So fair play to Declan McDonough. And I know we're saying like, oh, the clock isn't as fast for Charlie. We're only trying to pick holes here because we can't actually find any issues with the dog. So we're just scrutinizing for no reason whatsoever because we can't find anything wrong with him. But look, we all know what finals are like. They could put it up to him early doors in the final. He could just pull away, like, but everything has to go right. And I think I said 2 weeks ago, like, you nearly want to see more of a competitive nature in these competitions. You don't want to see a dog just pop out every round and win so easy. But maybe we do. Maybe this is because we'll be talking about this for years to come if he goes unbeaten throughout this competition over 6 bends. It's just, and I've often said on here before, oh, I'm not a massive fan of the 750. I'm warming up to it now, let me tell you.
Well, you better you quickly find yourself getting kicked off because I am a huge fan, as Tommy will tell you. The 750s are my bag. I love them. Let's move on to the second heat. We just mentioned there again, Tono Charlie beating Ballyhooly TJ and Hanover Phantom. 3 quality performers over 750 yards making it through to the final. The second heat was a little less straightforward. Here, Drewby's Comrade was sent off the even money favourite ahead of Velvet Jenny at 7-4. It was pretty predictable that Velvet Jenny would set the pace. I must say, I was caught off guard by her opening round effort. I'd seen her over 750 yards at Shelbourne Park a couple of occasions, and she just failed to get home. And I didn't think she had a 41.80 in her, and she does a 41.76 the other evening. She does absolutely nothing wrong. But just when it came down to the bones of it, Neon Lights probably just did enough to sort of keep her on her toes in that first half of the contest. And Drewby's Comrade, who was stuck in a pocket, made a great maneuver down the back straight. Switching from the inside, he moved right across to get around the outside of Neon Lights. And once doing so, it was only a case of by how far he'd win. He won by 3 lengths in 41.54. Just looks like a dog that's really adapting to the distance. He obviously trialled very well over the trip prior to the competition. Did a good run last week coming from off the pace. And then the other evening went even faster in 41.54. No surprise to me if he took 20 or 30 spots off that. He's going to need to sharpen up just a little bit in the early yards, because he's not going to be picking up the likes of a Tuono Charlie or indeed a Ballyhooly TJ if he happened to make a great start. But Drubby's Comrade will no doubt probably end up being second favourite with the layers, and you have to respect the way he ran, Tommy. He's very, very powerful, no question about it. 750 yards isn't taking too much out of him as far as I can see.
750 yards is a minimum for him. This dog could be a special ultra marathon distance runner. He's absolutely flying at the death of the race. What I would love to see, right, and both dogs being right, I'd love to see a match race between himself and Tuono Charlie and Derby finalised. And the reason I say that is Drubby's Comrade is still doing everything wrong in races. This race was nearly a carbon copy of the previous week, where he met dogs at the bends and kind of had to switch wide. But watching him the other night, I felt he was more inclined to do that than had to do that. I think he was kind of setting himself up to kind of switch wide, to go around dogs rather than go inside dogs. And that kind of concerned me a little bit in terms of 6-dog races and when there's the quality of the likes of Tuono Charlie in the race, where he's going to get a run and how he's going to get a run at him early enough. I think he's tremendously talented. And we're talking about, you saying knocking 20 or 30 spots off, absolutely no problem whatsoever. If he was able, if you could find a race in which you thought Tuono Charlie might lead and he might be able to turn second, you'd be saying, and hence the reason I'm saying about a match race, he could really rattle him. He could push him closer than any dog has ever pushed Tuono Charlie. I think he's immensely talented, but I still think that inclination is there. And if you watch the two races, and this might be a bit too forensic, really, but it's just the way I look at it for my own point of view, from maybe punting down the line or whatever else. I'll be watching this type of stuff. I think he tends to want. I didn't realize that the first day over 750, the first round over 750. Just the other night, he tends to want to switch wide. He's almost setting himself up to do that, rather than thinking, okay, there might be a gap coming along the inside here and I might slip through. He's thinking, you know what? And partly it's the fact that he's superior to the dogs that are in front of him at the time, but like massively talented, a proper stayer.
Does the presence of Velvet Jenny make a difference in the final? Because she's going to put it up to Tuono Charlie early. She might even lead him. All of a sudden, it just might sort of bring the pack a bit closer together.
Yeah, and that's exactly, and that's it's kind of what we want to one degree. Look, I want a superstar every day of the week, and Tuono Charlie looks every bit like a superstar, to be honest about it. But it could make it competitive. It's supposed to be interesting. It's supposed to be difficult. It's supposed to be all these sort of things. And I think that anything that holds up Tuono Charlie might not beat him, but it'll be enough to make it interesting. Drubby's Comrade will still do the same. Watch him again next week. He'll still do the same. That's my only concern.
Yeah. Just Sarah talking about him there. Drubby's Sweet the Dam. She's turning into a nice little brood bitch. This was from her first litter. She had a couple of very decent ones in there. The second litter has a couple of them were racing in the Dennis Linehan the other evening. The Callaway dog, Callaway Kinnegar, who did the Massa 28-17 run, the opening round. So clearly she's breeding them. Drubby's Plunge is also in there. That's another kennel companion of the Callaway dog, and that one did 28-42 on debut. So certainly a dam to look out for. But as we said, Drubby's Comrade, he's just an absolute galloping machine.
Oh yeah, I really like him. I remember in his early career, he was slow away, very slow away. Every week, if he was running, the comments were just, and he came out and done 32.70 something in a 600 one night in Shelbourne. And I remember saying to myself, I can't wait to see him step up and trip, because he obviously, he'll stay all day, and now he's in the final of the Cork and Cuchulainn. I think he's a very, very talented dog. And I agree with Tommy, like the match race would be pretty special if he stopped doing all those things wrong in the race and pinged out and whatnot. Like 41.54 is still an excellent time. I know we're comparing it now to Charlie, like 41.01. That doesn't really matter when it comes to a final. So yeah, I think that adds a bit of spice to it. And I agree with you as well, Velvet Jenny, she'll probably lead up. So this race is going to have everything. I think it's going to have us on the edge of our seats. Well, hopefully anyway.
An interesting contest. Just want to give a shout out. Drubby's Comrade started his career at Enniscorthy last October 9th. He won by 16 lengths in 28.82 and led off the second bend, drew clear. You sort of get a false sort of an idea of a dog, Tommy, but it was clear that night that he had a massive engine. We knew the future was probably going to be over a bit further. Now, I was thinking maybe 550 yards, 600 yards, but here we are, you know, 6 or 8 months later, and he's an absolute star over six bends, very much in the infancy of a six-bend career. He too remains unbeaten over the trip, we must remember, and very interested to see how he runs in the final next week against the likes of Tuono Charlie. Velvet Jenny could have a big say in the outing. Neon Lights was second. He actually just got up in the line to pip Velvet Jenny, who was back in third spot. It was actually quite tight in behind. You know, it was 3 lengths back to Neon Lights, but then it was ahead and a length and a length. Lilu and Hybrid actually both ran well in defeat. But yeah, we've got a very interesting final of the Cork and Cuchulainn. I assume both of you are going with Tuono Charlie, as am I. But I think we're all in agreement that it has the potential to be a lot closer than we think.
Yeah, Charlie for me, yeah. You, Tommy?
Yeah, to Charlie, go to Charlie until he's beaten. There's no point in opposing him. I mean, you'll always go with the dog. If he's a dog has seen out the trip as well as he is, and shown the early and middle pace that he is. This is like the other night. Hanover Phantom gave him a bit of a test. Velvet Jenny might give him a bit more of a test, and that I think that'll only bring out even better into Charlie. To be honest about it, I mean, we've got. I think it's fair to say already he's the star, Tuono Charlie. And we've got a potential star in Droopy's Comrade. So it's a cracking race. Tuono Charlie for me. But I mean, if Droopy's Comrade wants to step up to 800 and whatever they do, 850 or 8 whatever the distance is, yeah, he'd be unbeatable.
Looking forward to that. He'll have his options. They used to run an 850 Derby final. I'm not sure if it often fills anymore, but they'll certainly have one at the Winter Racing Festival. Looking at the rest of the card at Shelbourne Park before we move on, there was a good run by Mustang Sam early in the card, 28-18. Glen Lara Blue, what a great campaigner he's been for Liam Curley and Thomas Gary, 30.99 for the 575-yard trip. Esmond Swift won well for Georgie Roach. La Gitana showed loads of early boost. Getting down to the brass tacks though later on, a couple I do want to mention. Nico Harbour, a son of Droopy Sydney out of Susie Sapphire, stepped up to 550 yards for the first time. Took a couple of bumps at Trap Rise, but mastered his rivals into the opening corner. Went on to win in 29.69 for the 550-yard trip. I think he's a very bright future. He's a really nice dog, loads of pace. First time I've seen him lead around the corner. I don't think it'll be the last. I think the 550 yards could be the making of him. The Bull Falcon, the 28.04, the much hyped, the much talked about the Bull Falcon after his sensational debut at Tralee. He got a bit lost since then. He's had, I think, 2 or 3 handlers since then, but he's now with John Ginger McGee. And once he led early, that was game over, ball burst again. 28.04, an absolutely stunning run. He's a dog that does not want to be over 525 yards. He wants 550, 600 yards, in fact. But clearly the engine is still there. 1 or 2 people are writing him off. And, you know, this was a dog at one point that was backed into favoritism for both the Irish and the English Derby. So just keep him on your radar. And in the finale, it was great to see Caracchino returning to winning ways. This fellow had taken a bad tumble in his previous outing about a month ago, but showing all his class to win the other evening, leading early to win in 29.72. A slightly, how would I say it, rusty run by Carmack King on the outside in trap 6. He just didn't get going like he had been doing, but that layoff probably just left a little bit of a mark, and I'm sure he will strip much fitter, and I assume he'll be in the Champion Stakes, as would you'd expect Caracchino and a few others. I've been told, now I haven't been told by the connections, that Nico Harbour might swerve the Champion Stakes just given the fact of his age and his inexperience, but we'll see. I think he was mine. I'd certainly be tempted to throw him in the Champion Plate, if not the Champion Stakes, but no, for some talented trackers, good racing at Shelbourne Park on Saturday night. Let's move on. Produce Stakes, Clonmel, Sunday evening. Sarah, set the tone. Tell us about it. A beautiful evening for racing and a cracking winner.
Yeah, stunning evening. My first time there. So I was actually like, my first impressions were brilliant. I didn't realize there was a restaurant and everything there. Like, I just thought it was a stand, to be honest. The work that they do is sensational. I was treated like royalty when I walked in the door. Dinner, dessert, I put it all up on Instagram. I was like, they couldn't do enough for me. It was really, really nice. The hospitality was second to none. All the staff. I met lovely Helen O'Dwyer, you know, rural Hawaii. She was on the turnstiles. She's saying she's on the board of directors there for years, and you know, they all kind of help out each other there. They're all doing different roles and stuff. You know, they're a great team. Lovely crowd. The sun was beaming down. The atmosphere was lovely. Met the sponsors from Casco. I met loads of people. There was Tim Lucy was there. Derek Frehel was there. Alex Krasik was there, Pat Meskel was there. It was a great turnout from the GRI side as well. And then a track record was broken before that by Adira Freya for Willie Brennan. That was a cracking run. I was told it was 29:59 was the record, and he just done it by, or she done it by a spot 29:58. And then, of course, coming up to the big final itself, then myself and Shari-Ann O'Donnell went out to the middle of the track because they like to greet the winner at the pickup and put the cover on. And I actually really like that touch that when they do that at race courses, it makes the winner feel that bit more special. And Unanimous Panther was a very, very good winner indeed. Once he hit the front, you were never going to pass him. They kind of were unlucky with him at the Lee Strand final and that, like, so he was due a big win. And I suppose, like, I was speaking to the bookies afterwards, they had Emma was over there for 6 weeks in Toaster, and their mammy was at home doing all the work with the dogs and going racing and stuff while they were over in England. And then they got knocked out of the Derby, and they won the Race of Champions with Cuchulainn, and then they've won the National Produce Stakes. So it's a sort of a silver lining for them after the effort that they put in Toaster. So it was a brilliant night. Very, very impressed. Can't wait to go back down again. That was an SIS. They have the SIS on the Sunday and racing on a Friday. So get yourselves down to Clonmel. I was kind of ashamed with myself that I hadn't been there before, Ian. And I'll definitely back. It was a wonderful evening, and they brought in a crowd and they've done great work. So fair play to everyone. Yeah, and well done to the winner, of course, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, wonderful work goes into Clonmel. I know from my own prior experience, anytime I was doing the Irish folks like that, you mentioned Clonmel, they'd always get in touch and give you that little bit of additional information. They just want to spread the word that Clonmel is very much open for business, doing wonderful work down there, as you say. A lot of voluntary work going on, and a lot of work going on in behind the scenes. Tommy, you'd know all about that from the likes of y'all in recent times. That some of these tracks, if it wasn't for the volunteers, they wouldn't be standing.
Yeah, and it's not just the smaller tracks. Curtin Park, they're doing the supporters are doing a huge job up there as well. So it's not just confined to likes of y'all and Clonmel and all these smaller tracks as we classify them. Yeah, there's a huge amount of effort. Goes to show. I don't suppose we need to talk about it too much, but it just goes to show that the passion that the people in the game have to maintain it, because there's it seems like a constant hard time in the sport. Yeah. And it's just a weird world we're living in at the moment, and unfortunately, but that's something we got to find our way to navigate through.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. No, the final itself. I thought Unanimous Panther was an absolute certainty going into the final, and it proved so, because he had shown pace the previous week that I hadn't really noticed. He won his first 2 rounds. He'd shown pace into the bend, and I don't know. I said it here last week when Barry was on, that I don't know what happened at the first bend, but his head went up in the air. Like, to me, it looked like he hit the rails with his body quite hard and lost all momentum. He would have led around that night, and he would have been leading Romeo Taylor, I'm sure. And he lost so much momentum and so much ground at that stage to be beaten only 2.5 lengths in semi-final. All he needed was a half reasonable draw. The only thing that would have put me off him if he was drawn out in 5. Other than that, I couldn't see him beaten. I just thought he's a really, really good dog. Romeo Taylor did what Romeo Taylor does the other night, unfortunately. Loads of talent, but and massive early pace, but doesn't always break. And when you don't do that,
it seems to be his one night, missed the next night. His one night missed, and it's a case of, it's frustrating because the pace he showed, even to get involved in any way, shape, or form, is unbelievable.
Yeah, because you've got like In Good Time as a track record breaker, a dog that broke in front of him. He's shown this monster early pace to get up and to be, and he obviously, what In Good Time did was move a kind of a middle course more, or not tight middle, but kind of middle to wide course rather than staying out wide. And then all of a sudden he had Romeo Taylor's ground, and Romeo Taylor, in fairness to the dog, was really trying his heart out to get up there and get around them. But it was, look, to be honest about it, the race was over anyway. Even if In Good Time wasn't in the race, Romeo Taylor would have taken it up maybe at halfway or just before halfway, and Unanimous Panther would likely have come by him again because that effort. And that's the frustrating part about Romeo Taylor, is he's not a strong stayer. We've talked about this. They've tried him with the sprinting as well. He if you're not going to quite get home, or if you're just getting home, you need to do everything right at the traps. And like, when he does it, he looks absolutely top drawer. And when he misses like that, then he's just frustrating, because all that pace is still on show. It's on show maybe for 150 yards instead of 525 yards. But he's from my point of view, he's always opposable. Doesn't mean people take that as I don't like the dog. But
if you take out his best lines of form, you're going, God, he's all over a Laurel's dog, isn't he? But
yeah,
unfortunately, he throws in that bad start every so often, and that's the problem.
yeah, that's the problem. I mean, and like it's the talent is there, and like you'd love to have him as fast as him. I've never had anything that's even remotely close to as fast as Romeo Taylor is. Maybe someday, but he's going to be the type to always kind of frustrate. He'll get his days. He's had his days. He won an unraced, and he's going to have more days. But it's just a matter on a night for night kind of basis. He's probably opposable.
Yeah.
In that sort of company. That's why I thought Unanimous Panther, who's a really, really good dog. Things didn't happen for him in the Lee Strand final. He had shown that was all wrong. He effectively should have been favoured, but he should also have been unbeaten coming into the final.
Yeah. Just talk about the winner now for a few moments. Unanimous Panther. If you would listen to Pat Buckley a couple of months ago, it was all about his kennel. It was all about his little brother, Antigua Hawk, who is the, been talked about as an absolute star in the making, and he did look very, very talented early rounds in the English Derby. But this Unanimous Panther was so impressive through the Lee Strand. Yes, it didn't happen from the big night, but I think it's safe to say that this year's Lee Strand is as good as we've seen over the last decade. A very, very good competition. We saw Dashing Toro coming out and breaking the track record at Tralee for the 550 yards since then in the Race of Champions against really top class greyhounds. So that form has been further. Frank also the deadly dog, came to Shelbourne Park and really caught the eye. So yeah, I think there was real talent in the Lee Strand. But getting back to Unanimous Panther, he's from a fantastic line. His Damn Mystical Mall goes back to Sizzling Sarah, Nifty Princess, back to Nifty Neve. So that's Nifty Neve obviously the Dam of Premier Fantasy and the likes. And then on the sire side, like 010 goes back to Express Mist, Airport Express, back to all Pat Bolton's best breeding. So breeding shining through here, but he's still, like, I suppose the fact that he's 87 pounds, Sarah, just gives me the impression that he's still quite raw, puppyish. Maybe that's just down to his size. But I'll tell you something, when everything really clicks with him, he's already a classic winner. When everything really clicks with him, I don't know if there's any ceiling to where he can go. Like, this is a very, very talented greyhound. Seems to have all the attributes needed to be a star.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I interviewed the owner afterwards, Kieran O'Sullivan, and they had bought this dog off Buckley, and this is his first massive win. This is certainly his first classic win. He wasn't sure where they're going to go next, but he said he was very excited because, as you say, they don't know what he's really capable of. He'll only get better, as we've seen in the Lee Strand and stuff like that. Like, he doesn't have that much racing on his card, so there's loads for him to go for. Like, there's the Champion Stakes, there's the Ledger, there's obviously the Derby, there's loads for him. I don't know.
I'll throw one at you. I haven't spoken to Pat, but he does have a modus operandi. I wouldn't be surprised if this fellow appeared in Dundalk for a sprint or for a trial in the next week or two, and is thrown into the hat for the Dundalk International. It's a lot of twine for one race, and this fella, looking at him down the back straight, there certainly wouldn't be a problem handling the long back straight in Dundalk. Now, the problem is Pat's probably not going to get more than one into it, and Cuchulainn Otto will also have a shout, having won the Race of Champions.
Rather Otto in it than. Well, I don't know. I'm only guessing.
Be interesting to see. Anyway, wherever he ends up, he's very, very talented, no question about it. In good time in second spot, Tommy already alluded to him, a track record holder, and Romeo Taylor back in third spot. Listen, I would say all targets would suggest Romeo Taylor will be probably the likes of the Dundalk Sprinter and maybe the Laurels. If he was mine, that's where I'd be taking him. We want to just briefly mention our dear Freya, who did break the track record on the undercard, as Sarah alluded to, out of Fork Lightning. Of course, Fork Lightning was for the Iron Man from Road, Paddy McCormack. She's been breeding very, very well, and our dear Freya, well thought of. They threw her into the Puppy Oaks at Shelbourne Park unraced. I think she came in as a reserve in the opening round. The fact that she was 1-2 the other evening suggests that there was a fair bit of confidence behind her. Obviously, she'd won in a fast time the previous week, 29.68. She does 10 spots faster, 29.58. And yes, the 550-yard trip at Clonmel is it's used all too infrequently. But if you look at some of the dogs that have run over 550 yards around there in the past, including the likes of Clonbrine Swift, Cabra Buck, Explosive Boy, Unreal Bruiser, Skywalker Farlow, some really fast greyhounds have run over the trip. Romeo Magico has a win over it. Some very, very talented greyhounds. And the fact that Ardira Freya is now the fastest of them over 550 yards at Clonmel says a lot. She's only a youngster, and there's plenty more to come from her. So lots to talk about from Clonmel on Sunday evening. Great racing indeed. We're going to go to Cork. Go ahead, Tommy.
Sorry, no, just two very quick things. One, our dear Freya kind of got slightly clipped from behind at the first bend as well. Still managed to do a track record. And if I've taken the dog out of the Produce Stakes, I'd go back a couple of rounds and take out Silver Hill Ben. I don't know if you got to see him. Not much racing done with him. He was in trap one in the quarterfinals. It didn't suit him. Very inexperienced. I thought it wouldn't suit him, but thought he might get away with it. Popped out in front, moved middle, got all sorts of trouble. I think in good time won that heat, actually, funny enough. And Silver Hill Ben was sent off odds on favourite. There's a dog that could potentially develop into a Derby dog.
Yeah, no, fast greyhound, no question about it. I don't think he's the only the fast one in the litter. I think we've spoken about one or two of them before. Let's move on to Cork, and I'm going to stick with Tommy. Your backyard. Obviously, just given the very nature of the competition, we always tend to sort of hone in on the unraced stakes, and the Dennis Linehan has been an unbelievable stake. Certainly, in recent years, has been an unbelievable stake. This year's is obviously packed with promising youngsters, but it was almost like the more established greyhounds decided to go, do you know what? Maybe we're going to take the limelight tonight, because there was 2 sub-28 second runs. There was also a 28-12 done in the opening round of the David Fitzgibbon Memorial Open 525, worth serious money, Tommy. There's some exceptional racing on Curraheen Park this year. Like, week in, week out, it's the one track to just keep an eye on.
Yeah, it is. I tell you, it's funny actually. Looking at it, the place is flying at the moment, and so it should be. It was a funny one, because when I was looking at the Dennis Linehan results the other night, I was going, geez, just time went back a bit from last week, and then you're looking at the rest of the card going, okay, it wasn't the track, there's something more to it. It just goes to show you a bit of inexperience and what a huge run can take out of you and everything like.
Yeah.
But in overall terms, just as a general comment on Curraheen Park, it's definitely those involved, and I mentioned the track supporters obviously already. Everybody involved is really putting a huge effort in, and it's gone on a good while. Last year they started, adding money to stakes and kind of trying to attract more and a better quality of a greyhound. I think it's really paying off. I mean, have a look at that's probably as good a nice racing in terms of results as you get at Curraheen Park, or as you've ever seen at Curraheen Park in terms of clocks and talent. It's not just because the track's on fire on a night that they've done those clocks. It's because they've attracted that depth of talent to do that, and long may that last.
Yeah, like you see the two 27.93 and 27.88, and you think, oh yeah, like track's obviously mad. They win by 11.5 and 12.5. You know what I mean? The dog that does 27.93 is already a winner of the plate competition down at Clonmel. He went over to the UK. He won the Monmore Puppy Cup, and he also won a valuable puppy competition at Monmore. They decided not to go for the English Derby with him. That's how good they thought he was. They decided not to go for it. Give him a bit of experience in Ireland. He went into Produce Stakes, got knocked out in the open round. Just didn't happen for him. And then Untold Dollar takes off in the opening heat, just 27.93. Just a stunning performance by a very, very fast greyhound. Sarah, I think Cork certainly was the place to be on Saturday night.
Yeah, I agree with Tommy. And both the racing has been absolutely outstanding. I only glanced at the results and seen a few interviews that Barry Drake had put up. I haven't actually sat down and watched the racing, but people were talking about it in Clonmel last night, saying exceptional clocks. It was 27.93. Like, that's savage. There's so many good stakes in Curraheen, and Brian Collins and the lads, like, they do unreal work for the fundraisers and benefit nights, and Jimmy Barry Murphy, and it is a very, very good track. They do a lot of work there, as they all do, but anytime I go down there, it's packed, and it's great racing, great competitions, great sponsors. Yeah, they're flying. They're doing really well.
Let's talk about the dogs themselves, Tommy. Let's start with Untold Dollar. As we've already mentioned, I gave you his back catalogue there. He's clearly a very fast greyhound. New in Taylor, Glennegat Mildred, 27.93 off of 320. Obviously this competition is worth €10,000. It's well worth winning, but I'd say Graham Holland just wishes the Laurels were starting in a fortnight.
Yeah, of course you would. Actually, funny enough, the Broadtran dog of Johnny Linehan did a 3:15 section.
Yeah, well, I was going to get to that. I was going to get to that.
28:12. So,
yeah.
I don't know where he got the extra 5 spots, because Untold Dollar absolutely flew. He gallops like a big dog. Now he's a 77-pounder, which I suppose is big enough. He gallops like a big dog, which I love actually. I think there's a kind of robustness about him as well that looks like it. That's what he looks like when you see the way he gallops. I don't think there's much missing in him. If you can find that sort of consistency at traps to be doing those 320s, there's not much he couldn't potentially win.
Yeah, obviously he's a new in Taylor as well. It's good to see new in Taylor throwing some very fast greyhounds. Untold Dollar winning by 11.5 lengths in 27.93. Tommy, will stay with you. Broadstrand Sid, as you mentioned, 3:15, 4-6 favourite. We saw how talented this greyhound was down in Kilkenny in the Champion Open and Race, which again looks like turning out to be just the most unbelievable competition. He didn't get the flying start he needed down in Kilkenny and took a bump early, and obviously Bocco's Diamond got a run at him. I think that form was franked, as we're going to tell in a minute or two, but 3:15, 28:12, very quick away, always led. Don't think you need to add an awful lot much more to that, do you?
He's what behind Bacchus Diamond? He's 24 spots, and the night he was beaten in Kilkenny, he was beaten 3 lengths. So there's only a difference of 3 spots in if the form carrying over. Yeah, he's he was in 5 in the night, the final in Kilkenny, and it just didn't really suit. He's more of this kind of draw. Maybe you show one in Curry and Park is great, but 3 is good for that type of dog that he is. He has massive early pace. He's a real prospect. I'd only imagine that Johnny will just improve him through the course of the season, and I'd imagine that he's obviously going to come back for the Laurels. That'll be a big plan. Yeah, lovely to see that sort of form carried forward and work out so well, isn't it?
Absolutely. And as I've always referred to them as the luckiest syndicate in the history of syndicates, the Ryan Drake Donovan syndicate, they have a hell of a greyhound. Again, an absolute dog made for the Laurels. And Tommy, we'll stick with you again because Bocco's Diamond, 27.88. I think I've seen him places. This fellow's already favoured for the Derby. He looked very, very talented, Kilkenny, don't get me wrong. But I thought it was a bit premature. Could reassess that yet. 12.5 lengths, wins in 27.88 off of 3:31. So, like, you consider he's given the Broadstrand dog 16 spots to the winning line, and he goes so much faster. He goes a full 24 spots faster. So 40 spots from the winning line to the winning line.
Yeah, 5 3/4 lengths. Like it's a big difference. It obviously marks him out as probably a Derby dog more than a 5.25 dog, doesn't it? Even though he's done 27.88, that's a kind of a ridiculous statement. But 2 3:31s in a row, are they concerned? Not really. Would you like to see him shave a little bit off? Of course you would. But actually,
I will say one thing. I will say one thing. From the 3:31 to the corner, he's absolutely hammering.
This is why the 550 is why we're talking about the 550 be even more suitable for him. And also you have to factor in the fact that Trap 6 is a difficult box in Curraheen Park, and doing 3:31s from there is probably the equivalent of doing a 3:26 from the middle, to be quite honest about it. It tends to be easier to break from the middle or the inside, obviously Trap 1, but that 3:31 I wouldn't be concerned about them. 3:31 will probably equate to about 3:31 be about 3:39, 3:40 in Shelbourne Park, and he'd take a bit off that. Then on top of that, by the time he matures and come around to Derby time, he'll be doing 3:35, 3:30, maybe even in Dublin, like.
As a wide seed in the Derby, maybe maybe too big a price.
Well, do you know what? We were only talking last week and mentioned that there were a couple of dogs that were very sharp prices at 20, 25 to 1 for the Derby already. So this at least has the potential.
Yeah, no question about it. The Derby betting will get a good look at him, I am sure. Sarah, 3 very fast heat winners. Obviously, given our greed for Shelbourne Park, we just can't wait to see them hitting there, can we not?
I know, it's gas, isn't it? We're all thinking the same thing. Oh, we can't wait to see them up in Dublin. But look, that's natural because that's it's where the Derby is. That's the big one. That's the aim. But yeah, I'm raging. I didn't see them races now, because listening to you talk, it sounds very special indeed. So I'll have a look at them later. But someone said to me, what was the other one that was on, not the David Fitzgibbon? There was actually a lovely final on the card. Someone said to me, the Dan and Sheila Buckley Memorial, the Footfield Violet, £2,000 to the winner. It was a lovely final on the card, 29.74. Someone said to me that was a very good performance. So Tommy, were you there? Did you see it?
No, I wasn't there. I wasn't there. No.
She remains unbeaten, 5 from 5. Tommy, Johnny Linehan hoovering up more money down in Curraheen.
Yeah, they're the big surprise. But you see, it's like doing 29.74 to 550 has always been a funny. It's one I could never figure out in Curraheen Park. They can do like top dogs can be doing 29.90 on it, and next thing you can get a 29.30 out of the blue in an A2. It's a bit like actually the track record being beaten in Clonmel the other night in an A2. Like, it's just I've always struggled with the 550 in Curraheen Park, but it's obviously a huge run, 29.74.
Yeah. No, the nice type. Let's just briefly touch on the Johnny Linehan, not the Johnny Linehan, excuse me. I'm burying him. What is it? Dennis Linehan's listener, sorry, excuse me. Dennis Listener's open unraced stake. Tommy, obviously one or two of the dogs stepped back from the previous week. That's to be expected. Big, fast dogs doing fast runs on their debut, and they just leave a bit behind them. It's just like they're not quite conditioned to it. The Callaway Kinnegar dog was, what's he doing? He's gone back nearly 60 spots. He was third, but the fastest of the heat winners the other evening was Paul Dark, another member of this very fast Droopy Sydney Ballycown Lucy litter.
Yeah, and this probably wasn't a fluke either. It was picked off in the first round by Randolph Scotts, who got all sorts of trouble that day. But like, it was a 28-29 run. This time it popped out in front and did 28.50, which is reasonably similar to last week. I think close to what it did last week. I just think, like, I was kind of confused looking at the heats the other night. I think it's just a case of what we're saying. There's a lot of them are big pups nowadays. The size of the pups. A lot of them are quite big. I didn't point out, I think last year, that I thought the Droopy Sydney bitches in particular for some reason were extremely big. Nearly a lot of them in the high 70 pounds. That sort of even touching on maybe 80 pounds. But it just seems to the runs the previous week seem to have taken a bit out of them. But I don't think that's a major shock. Yeah, you would have thought Randolph Scotts had improved and he found trouble and still managed to win the last day. But you forgive all these runs, Ian. You just forgive them, like.
Yeah, I think it's just safe to say that there's loads of talent in it. If you look through pedigrees, there's some unbelievable pedigrees on show there, and there's so many fast dogs that come out of it. House Martin was a good winner for Aidan Comerford and Peter Cronin. Peter seems to think that he probably has more early than some of the comrades that we've seen in Shelbourne Park, and the likes of Nico Harbour and Sid Zafiro and dogs like that. But he was picked up in the opening round by Callagher Kinnegary, but showed good early speed the other night off a slow start to win in 28.65. There's better to come from him. But yeah, it's one of those competitions that we'll certainly keep a close eye on going forward. We're going to move on now to briefly just touch on the Tipperary Cup. The second round heats took place on Friday night, and the fastest of the heat winners was Tribal Sid. This is a dog who I've seen a bit of in recent times. Mert Lahey is obviously in great form at present. This dog took off at Shelbourne Park to the 28.25 back in early May, and since followed it up in hot company on the 8th of June in 28.39. He's after coming down now to the Tipperary Cup. He got beaten in the opening round, but the other evening did everything right. 28.66 off the front. If he continues this sort of form, he'd be very, very hard to beat. He beat Groucho's Finn by 6 lengths. Next fastest to him was Bonkers in Yonkers, who of course is a kennel companion, so a tremendous double for Mert Lahey. Beach Sid, or 7 Beach should I say, was behind him. Very talented tracker. Didn't get to the front the other night. Did an unbelievable 158 in the previous round, clocking 28.64. So he's clearly still one of the leading fancies as well. And the other two heat winners were Ballymun Boy, a dog noted for his early speed, beating Road Exile, another noted early pacer. And then the last heat went to Mustang Sally, who too has blistering early speed, beating Born of Flame. Much better to come from them. That's just bubbling up into a nice competition, Sarah. Some very familiar names, and I think it's safe to say we'll there's a bit of sport left in that. I didn't even mention Sing Along Dolly, who already is a classic winner. She was third to Tribal Sid. So if we've already got 12 well-established performers going through. This could be an unbelievable final for Tipperary Cup. It's a hark back to the good old days of the Tipperary Cup.
Yeah, there was loads of people talking about it last night in Clonmel. I was talking to Sean and Stephen Burke and a few other people, and they were messaging me on Facebook saying, please give the Tipperary Cup a mention. I said, of course I will, but we were always going to talk about it anyway, because the standard of this is very, very good. Like you just mentioned a few there, like Road Exile and Sing Along Dolly, Seven Beach. These are all top class dogs. That's a great entry list after getting down there. I think it's 7,000, 7,500 to the winner, I think it is. So I will try to get down to the final of that as well. There's so much going on around the country. It's like I didn't even realize this was coming upon us so quick. I thought that this wasn't even starting yet, and I was looking at the results going, that is some entry list and some really, really good results. So, and it's another track that I haven't been to yet either. So I can't wait to tick that off the list.
It's a few years since I was in Thurles, has to be said, much to my shame. But two semi-finals look absolutely red hot. That'll be well worth tuning into. We will be showing it on the Irish Focus and SIS Racing during the week. Let's move on to Limerick, because the confined derby was there. Sarah, obviously, at this point, the dogs have been thrown out. So I think after the second round, times don't matter. So one or two of them went faster on Saturday night. Kel's Breeze, an amazing achievement. And it happened to be, am I right in saying this, that the fastest heat winner had done 28.92 and 28.91 in the previous rounds. That deserves a medal in itself.
Yeah, this is Sir Roger you're referring to, is it?
Sir Roger.
So Roger,
we Roger, 28.91 in the opening round, 28.92 in the second round. So stays in by a spot, stays in by 2 spots, and then 28.66 in the third round. Michael Keating, I doff my hat to you, sir. Well done to Sir Roger.
You can't even plan that. Like, you can't just whisper in the dog's ear and say, just stay a spot in,
Tell Michael that. Tell Michael that, because he's after doing it.
Yeah, no, it was great. I think this is a wonderful idea, a great brainchild by, as they were calling on Saturday, by Willie Rigney and Derek Frehel, I believe. I think it's great. I was down there, obviously, Time, Greyhound Nutrition are great sponsors. And I said it to them beforehand, they're very obliging. Like, I was like, look, have you any merchandise or anything you want me to promote or give away or whatever? So we came up then we'd done the 6 heat winners. And initially I was going to do the fastest heat winner, and I was like, oh, we better not do that, because that's a bit controversial when the heat winners were thrown out in the first 2 rounds. So we put the 6 heat winners in a hat, and the winner, we got Niall Foley to draw out the winner. Actually, his dog qualified in the Treaty Cup. That they got a bag of Greyhound 28, which is their best seller, and a gorgeous fleece jacket for their Greyhound. They're really high quality. So they're great sponsors. But yeah, look, Kraken was up 28.66, Sir Roger. Easy peasy, 7-4. Or he actually wasn't the favourite. I think Sunnybank Maya was the favourite for Skippy and Mary Gilbert. But look, I think it's a wonderful idea, a great competition. There's going to be a consolation derby as well for this. But yeah, no, the confined derby was brilliant, but the atmosphere was there, was good. It was a good crowd. And yeah, what more can you say? Sir Roger was very good. What was the other one? Cregane made 28.82, and Brackisle Roxy won the open heat 28.93. Like, they're all doing nice enough times. You're not seeing that and coming out and doing 28.04 or something ridiculous like that, So maybe an A4 dog will actually win the A4 derby. You never know.
I can promise you, by the time they get to the final, there won't be an A4 dog. I don't think there's any A4 dogs left in the competition. Tommy, by my reckoning, 6 of these would have been thrown out last week, but they remain in the competition this week because we're into the third round.
I look at, we talked about last week in terms of what it is or what it isn't, and it's the success or otherwise will kind of be told by those who were involved, including those who kind of got thrown out and those who managed to not get thrown out. And just it's a peculiar one. Like, it's a shockingly poor stake for somebody trying to look at it from an anti-post point of view. You can't possibly do that. But it's novel. It's very different. It's novel. It's I say it's those involved that will be able to tell us whether it's a success or not. But I suppose don't ask the winner. 20 grand will be all right. I think that's it. It's good.
It's going to be some money. It is going to be some money. Sarah's been chomping at the bit now to mention Ballinakillalf breaking the track record in 18.22 for the Pillar Syndicate, and trainer Graham Holland, not normally a flying start, but flew out the other evening. Sarah, take it away.
It was magic. I love the Pillar Syndicate. I do. I talk about them all the time, and they're great lads. And I was talking to Noel Byrne after it, and I was like, "Well, you're delighted." And they came out for the picture at the clock. We brought them out to the clock, the usual. And they were buzzing. And I says to him, "Have you ever had a dog to do a track record?" And he was telling me about wanting to have an Oscar. So I researched an article there yesterday before I hit the road for Clonmel, and he done he had the track record in Dundalk for the 620 in something that was called the Irish Cup or something. You'd know better than me. But he done the track record for the 620 back in 2006, I think it was. So he was buzzing. He was like, "Look, just have another dog to do a track record." I know he's only in the syndicate, he doesn't train it, but still, it's still associated with it. But he was magic. As soon as he came out, Ballinakillough, I was standing with a few of the lads, and the way he opened up such a gap within seconds was outstanding. And everyone was saying, "Geez, the track record is going to be in trouble here." And he even hit a speed wobble coming off the last bend. Like, he was going that fast, he had to adjust himself to turn back in. You could see the sand flickering up as he moved off the last bend, and the clock came up. I don't even think the commentator actually knew at the time, but then within a few minutes, they said to me, "That's a track record." So I sprinted out to the clock, and we brought the lads over, and I was just great. It was just a great evening down there. Because I don't think I can go to the final. That's why I went down on Saturday night, to cover it and give a bit of promotion to it. Because I don't think I'll get down with the final because it clashes with the Champion Stakes. So yeah, but look, Ballinakillough, magic. Seen him in Shelbourne when he won the sprint there as well, and now in Limerick. So I hope he goes on to win the final. He's a special dog.
He's a hell of a sprinter, Tommy. It has to be said, he's not always the flying starter like that. He tends to have to work hard for his lead, often around the opening two bends. He runs a remarkable first and second bend. The other evening, to put so much distance between himself and his rivals, and there's no point in saying otherwise. Like, he was 4-9, he was greatly superior to his rivals. But after that flying start, it was only a case of how fast he would go. In the end, he broke the track record. That track record has gone a few times over the last few years, but I think this one, 1822, could be here to stay for a while.
It's a huge cut off a track record. So you tend to think that it will take a fair bit of whacking again. Like you said, we talked about him a lot. He's a dog that almost gets 5.25, and when he breaks like that, breaks like that over 350. Actually, the one thing that struck me that I hadn't really struck me before about Limerick and the sprint when I was watching that the other night, is that it's a very good track for sprinting, actually, isn't it?
It's a fantastic sprint trip. It really is, because you don't, like, obviously the first bend at Limerick sometimes gets a bit of criticism, whatnot. There's no criticism about the third and fourth bends. It's a real sweep, and dogs get a chance to really build up a head of steam. As Sarah said, like, he was going so fast into the opening corner, you're just afraid about a speed wobble.
Well, it's funny. It looks like it's probably not, but it looks like it's quite a long run into the bend, and it's a very long run home. Well, it looks like, and it always feels like a very long run home, especially if you're back to dog that's only just in front. But it just to me strikes as a really. It's just the one thing. The funny the other night watching the race, going, do you know what? This is a really good sprint track.
Yeah. He's, after taking 2 full lengths off the track record of Creed Jojo, 1822 as opposed to 1836. The boys will, if you ever get chatting to them, the Pillar Syndicate, they will tell you that they've got, I think, two from the I'm not sure if it was the next litter, but certainly the morning of the Greyhound Awards, on the way up the road, they bought 2 daughters of, or 2 sons of New Inn Madam. So they're hoping that they can follow in the footsteps of Ballinakillough, and of course his equally talented little brother, Jack Tavern Bolt. Best of luck to them. Just while we're at it, the other 2 heats were won. Burgess Jack, who's been a great sprinter down on the, I'm going to say, the provincial scene. Well, I mean Munster, basically, because they haven't really brought him to Shelbourne Park. A good winner for Sharon, or for Sarah Shannon, should I say, not Sharon Shannon. Sharon Shannon's pretty talented musician. But no, Burgess Jack winning in 1886. He's capable of much better. We actually saw him lowering the colours of Ballinakillough around Limerick in the past. But yeah, on this occasion, 1886. And then the other heat went to Hurla Leo, and Hurla Leo for Jerome Crowley, a good winner. Well done to those. That's it for Limerick. Let's finish off proceedings by mentioning the English Derby, folks, because for the first time since 2021, It won't go to the Riverside Kennels and to Graham Holland. Both of their challengers crashed out the other evening. The other Colby just didn't quite get the corner. I thought he probably should have got the corner after a start, but Churchfield Sid just showed more early speed than him. Simple as that. And Gaytime Nemo was a little bit unfortunate. He nearly got around the opening corner at Laddie Da, forcing his way through up the inside. And thereafter, when Nemo switched wide, YI Man got past him, and then he had no chance of really holding Boyle Sports Bob. Sarah, we're going to have 3 finalists in the English Greyhound Derby. Let's just say I was more confident going into the last 2 Derby finals than I am going into this one, given the fact that the favourite, and warm favourite at that, is King Memphis, and he's a solid favourite. There's no question about it. Hugely talented greyhound, but absolutely loving life at present, and he will start favourite despite suffering defeat the other evening.
Yeah, this is a really good final. It's great to have 3 in there, but I wonder, like, if you were given at the start of this, would you have picked any of those 3 to have reached this far?
Well, I backed Boyle Sports Bob and the Laddie Da. Like, the Laddie Da would be number 1 choice. Absolutely.
And you're still not that confident going into the final.
He's the fastest greyhound in training, the Laddie Da. But the problem is, firstly, we don't know where he's drawn as we speak. By the time people are watching this at home, they'll know where he's drawn. If he's in trap 1 or 2 and he's on the inside of King Memphis, yeah, I'll give him a big chance, no question about it. He's probably not the real early speedsters I thought he was early in his career. He's more and more looking just an absolute powerhouse, Tommy.
There's no early pace in the race, sir. There's no proper electric early pace in the competition. And in the final, Churchfield Sid obviously showed a bit the other night. The difference between the 2 heats on the clock the other night was just a bit of trouble that King Memphis got by the fact that he missed it slightly, and then when he tried to show pace up, he got a bit of a bump on the inside a couple of times, ran his heart out, beating a short head. Other than that, if he gets a clear run there, he probably does the same time as the Laddie. They are very simple, very similar. The one thing I would say about the Laddie Da going to the line the other night is that Boyle Sports Bob, to my mind, isn't catching him going to the line.
No,
and that's a huge. I'm not saying that as a rundown of Boyle Sports Bob. It's quite the opposite. It's that the Laddie Da is huge to the line, absolutely monster to the line.
I think he's more of a 5'7", 600 yard dog these days. Anyway, I just think he's so immensely powerful, as we've seen in recent times. Like last year, he was a 5'2", 5'50" dog for my mind. Nowadays, I think 550 is the minimum he wants.
We're 2 great fellas not to despise him after last year.
you do know Tommy. You do know Tommy now. After Saturday night, he's raced from trap 1 on 8 occasions. He's won 7 of them. Guess the night he was beaten from trap 1. The night he went out of the Irish Derby in the semi-finals.
If he'd even qualified, for God's sake, we were on a 50s. But anyway, I know he's a smashing dog. The draw is hugely important here. Absolutely hugely important. It's difficult to talk about this one without knowing what the draw is, because where King Memphis is, King Memphis has that tiny bit more early pace than the Laddie Da. He's more inclined to show a bit of drive into the bend. The King Memphis then actually fly out of traps. But the Laddie Da, like if he's on the left of the Laddie Da, he beats him, in my opinion. If he's on the right of him, he can still beat him, but he needs to break that bit better. It's just the draw is so important in this final. I mean, you're saying that he's quite a warm favourite. I think I saw yesterday in places. I think he's 13-8 probably best, is he? Around about that sort of price.
Yeah, I'd say with a kind draw, he'll be even money. To be honest, I don't think that 13-8 will last. Be interesting to see. Be interesting to see. It's
still toaster, and many things can happen. And you know what? It doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot in terms of bumping or scrimmaging inside for Boyle Sports Bob to be a massive player in it. I mean, he flies home, and that's why, like what he showed the previous night when he managed to lead around the first bend was phenomenal, and doing 28, 58 or 9 or something like that. Like, I mean, that's why I was pointing out how impressed I was with the Laddie Da coming home the other night. I just didn't think Boyle Sports was getting to him at that stage. And I was going, wow, this is a savage performance from the Laddie Da. So the draw is hugely important, and what I tip in the final will likely be very strongly based on that. I'm a huge King Memphis fan. He's a competition dog. He's proven that in the past. He doesn't have the massive early pace, but he has the kind of pace that can lead. And as I said to you already, I don't think this is a a Derby final laden with early pace. So there's an
Oh,
opportunity for something to whip around and do a big run.
yeah, the obvious sort of pace angle is probably Churchfield Sid. You know, if he hits the lids, he's going to go around in front, and it's a case of
Yeah.
come and catch me if you can. Sarah, we have three finalists, of course. Ballymacgizmo is also there. Liam Dowling has some very much unfinished business around Toaster. I go back to the Seamus Graham days. He felt he left behind him once or twice and just got the bit between the teeth and said, no, I'm going to keep going until I win this thing. Liam Dowling is 2 in the final. Look, Ballymacgizmo will be a big price. How big the price is depending on the draw, but there's no question the laddie da is a big challenger for him.
Oh God, yeah, it's great to see. Like, fair play to Dowlings, and only from talking to the Buckleys, because I haven't been chatting to any of the others that are over there. Actually, Ginger McGee was telling me as well. Like, it's not an easy thing to be traveling over there, and it's like some people move over there and live their life over there for the duration of the Derby. So it's a huge effort that goes into it. I'm sure the English would disagree, but do you know what? Like, I wonder if they think, the way we're always slagging and saying, like, you're always going on about the Irish and the English and blah, blah, blah. I'd say they actually love that we go over to it because we add a competitive nature to it. We bring a crowd to it. Like, I bet you if we hadn't got so many finalists in it down through the years, the amount of people wouldn't be traveling over for it.
Yeah, of
So,
course.
it's all relevant and it's all good and it's all. But anyway, we don't know the draw. So by the time this comes out this evening, we'll know the draw. I actually tipped Sid on Saturday night. I think it was the only good winner I had on the night. I'm gone way down in that media tipping challenge for Star Sports. But I did fancy him because I thought he'd lead, and he ran exactly how I thought he would and just won. Um, but I am gonna stick with an Irish dog for the final. Again, as Tommy was saying, it all depends on the draw, but I really hope the laddie dad gets the business done. He's a dog we have talked about so much on this program. And he's just, as you say, he's one of the fastest dogs in training. It doesn't always go right for him, but I hope he gets the job done. But best of luck to everybody, and obviously Paul Hennessy, Liam Dowling, everyone. Best of luck. It's brilliant to be there. So well done.
Yeah, Liam has had 2 Derby runner-ups. Ballymacvic going back a good few years around Plough Lane in Wimbledon, and Ballymac Taz was beaten just marginally, beaten half length by Price's Blake back in what time? 2019. Just the mere fact that we have 3 finalists. It's actually the same number as we had last year, but in each of the previous four years we had 4 finalists. So it just shows the quality of our challenge over the last few years, and maybe it wouldn't be a bad thing if the English won one every now and again. But again, our colours will be firmly nailed to the Irish mast on Saturday night. We wish the connections of Ballymacgizmo, Daladida, and of course Boyle Sports Bob the very best of luck. Paul Hennessy seeking to win a 3rd Derby at a 3rd different Derby venue, and that would be some achievement. That's it, though, from us on this Saturday or Monday evening. Anything else to add there, Tommy, before we go?
No, I was just going to say, like what Sarah said about the glad to see us over there. I'd love to see a greater English challenge come to the Irish Derby.
Absolutely.
I don't see it happening.
Yeah,
I would
absolutely.
love it.
Yeah.
Because in fairness, the one thing I would say about having in Shelbourne Park in the last few years, there are a lot of English visitors over to Shelbourne
They
Park.
absolutely. It's a circle
always.
it's a circle on their diary. You wouldn't believe how often I am asked in the early part of the year when's the Derby final from our friends across the water. They all pencil it in, and it's their one jaunt, the one that they're guaranteed to go to, and they might even go then. Oh, and when's the Winter Racing Festival? While I have you, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's well worth it. It's well worth.
And I've
more challenges. Like, you look at King Memphis. Was there ever a dog more built for Shelbourne Park than King Memphis?
Yeah, that's exactly what this point I'm making. Like, every year you'll find them. They mightn't take the toaster, and they might go out early. We might know much about them then, but like I was saying English, I should say British, of course. But I would just love that. I think particularly when it amazes me that you get that many British visitors for the Derby, and even the competitions running up to it. They don't bring dogs with them as well, and say, do you know what we'll do? Let's take a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. Sarah, anything else, Dad?
No, hope to see some of them in the international.
Yeah, absolutely. The international coming up on July 12th, of course. There were one or two notable trials, including the aforementioned Cuchulainn trial very well the other evening. So
Yeah.
I assume Pat has probably made his choice with regards to the Dundalk International. I forgot about that. Good point. No, but the international is coming up on July 12th, and it should be an absolute belter. If it's anything like last year's contest, it'll be something special. Do you remember what won it?
Last year, Raha Mofo.
You both got it. Murtlees and Ramofo. That's right. The Murtlees trained Ramofo got up in the line to beat Balnabola Ed. What a contest. And we had a good, strong English challenge last year. Jimmy Fenwick was over.
Where's Balnabola Ed doing now? He's not retired or anything, did he? He was
I haven't made the phone call yet. I haven't made the phone call yet.
I just felt during the English Derby he was his freshness was obviously an asset early on, and he was running some brilliant races. And even when he got knocked out, he was just a bit unlucky to be led. I think that there's plenty of life in that dog yet.
Of course,
in terms of winning stuff.
Yeah.
Take yourself, Tommy.
Well, no,
not sure about that, Sarah. To be honest, no, not sure about that.
No, neither am I.
On that note, we're going to leave The Walking Dead and the Cheshire Cat, and we'll see you next week. My thanks again to Sarah Kinsella and to Tommy Lyons on some wonderful input this week on Talking Dogs on Monday. But that's it for us. The best of luck to everyone taking part in various finals, second rounds, third rounds over the weekend coming, because there's so much exceptional racing to look forward to. We particularly look forward to the final of the Cork and Limerick at Shelbourne Park, and of course the continued look in the two stakes down at Curriehan Park, and of course those running in the confined derby. I hope your dogs take themselves well out of A1 company now and dip into that 28-40 range, and if so, you could be well in line to win that €20,000 on courtesy of Time Greyhound Nutrition. But that's it from us on this Monday evening. Again, the very best of luck to everyone competing in the English Greyhound Derby, especially those flying the tricolour. Good evening, good luck, God bless.